Good evening, everybody. Comics and More New Jersey, Demon Phil here with yet another interview tonight, and we're going to have some fun with this one as well. When have we not had fun with one of them so far? So we're going to keep that pace going. I want to thank everybody for being here right now, whoever is here right now. If you will, go ahead and hit that share button. Let's go ahead and get some more people in here so we can get going with the interview on this. And once you're done sharing, if you'll go ahead and comment in here so I know you're in here, so I know that you can hear me, I know that you can see me. Sorry about your luck, but I am going to be on video for a little while. And of course, my first person in the comments, what's up, Russell? Thanks for showing up, buddy. I appreciate you being here. And Russell, before you ask, no, I am actually wearing shorts tonight. So yeah, it's everything's cool. See, we've really got to go ahead and start putting that out where we start let them know what's going on between our stories on that, Russell, because I've got too many of my guests that sit in the back room and they're trying to figure out what's going on before they come out here because they see pantsless and they get a little bit worried. Jim, thank you for being here, buddy. If you will, y'all just go ahead and share this out. Let people know what we've got going on. We will give this about another minute before I go ahead and bring my guest out tonight. Thank you again for being here. I hope y'all are having fun with me doing the interviews, the book reviews, and having my face up here so much because I know it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but I enjoy doing this. So as long as you're willing to have me up here, I am willing to keep doing it. All right. Yes, Russell, I agree. Curiosity breeds attention. Attention brings greatness upon the big reveal. Oh, yeah, and there will be a big reveal. All right, so that being said, now we're going to go ahead and go all the way back to where I began here, which is the actual interview. So tonight, I have someone to interview. I know, I'm loving this right now. Tonight, the person that I have to interview is going to be kind of interesting because he actually does interviews as well. So we're just going to sit here and stare at each other and figure out who talks first is what I'm figuring is going to happen with this. We'll figure it out as we go along. But tonight, I have Onrie Kompan on here. He has done a couple of books, actually, but the main one that I want to talk about tonight is Yi Sun Shin, which I will be doing a review on as well. And I am more than excited about this book. So rather than you seeing my ugly mug up here for the entire time to go ahead and talk about this, let's go ahead and double your fun and bring Onrie out here.
What's up, guys? Thank you so much for having me on your show, Phil. I appreciate it.
What's going on? Hey, I appreciate you being here, buddy.
I'm doing great. Living the good life.
I hear you. Hey, Joseph Bruno, thank you for showing up, buddy. I appreciate you being here. If you will hit that share button, let's go ahead and get some more people in here.
This is awesome.
Onrie, man, I've been looking forward to having you on here for a while. We've been talking about this and planning it out. I know I was pretty far scheduled out, and I cannot believe that I'm actually saying this because, you know, it's like my people talk to your people scenario to get you on the show, but you were patient enough to go ahead and get on here, and I certainly appreciate that.
Oh, I appreciate the fact that you reached out to me in the first place. Not enough people are doing that, and it means I get to talk about me today, which is great. I love talking about
Absolutely.
me. Yeah.
Absolutely. And in talking about that right now, I actually want to know, because for those that are out here that don't know who you are you and what do you do?
So my name's Onrie Kompan. I'm the writer, creator, and producer of the Yi Sun Shin trilogy. My book is about a Korean admiral that battled the Japanese in the 1500s. He was outnumbered 10-1, and he beat them 23 times in a row without ever losing a single battle. And this guy actually existed. He was a real-life hero. I also recently finished up my second book here, which is the story of my grandfather's life. It's called Marks. And my grandfather during the Second World War was a Russian Jewish soldier that battled the Nazis. And this is a story that I got from him on his deathbed because he never really talked about it. So really the graphic novel kind of explores his life, but also captures what the experience of interviewing him as he was, kind of passing away slowly was what that was like. So, yeah, I picked some.
Now,
I picked some projects.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And you've got some great ones here, and we're about to get into those. But I want to go ahead and bring up there are two reasons that I decided to have you on as a guest. And I just want to bring that up. Number one, everyone just experienced it. I always talk about passion and excitement in your work. We're not even at a con table, and yet literally we kind of are, virtually at least.
Absolutely.
So you were just acting as if we're up right there at your table right now, and hey, what do you have? And you're just right there. You're right there at the point of, hey, you've got to have this. This needs to be in your hands. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that energy and that excitement in there.
Phil,
the other thing that got me,
if you like it here, you should see it in person. I'm telling you.
Oh, I will.
I love it. I love engaging people, and I miss the convention scene so much. You have no idea. But please continue. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, absolutely. We've already discussed just previously that we will be seeing each other at one of the cons coming up, because you're already planning on coming up to some of them, and then we're going to get you involved in another one. So we will discuss that further. We can keep some secrets on this show. Ha ha ha. The other reason that I decided to get you on here is what is right behind you. Your banner that you have up there, for one thing, the time period is something that I absolutely love. I love the samurais, the time period, everything that happens with that. So in seeing your show, because that's where I found you, is actually on one of your shows that you do. And I saw that and how you were talking about your book and how passionate you were and all. Therefore, that's where we are here today. So my first question I want to ask is, what comics influenced you growing up to go ahead and decide you want to go ahead and do this?
Oh, man, that is such a great question. Well, I guess I should start by saying that I've always been a fan of Marvel Comics, and particularly Spider-Man. And Spider-Man is what got me into comics. And growing up, I was a huge fan of Todd McFarlane, Mark Bagley, all the stuff that they contributed to Spider-Man in the 90s. But I grew up in the 80s reading a lot of Spider-Man stuff, like Kraven's Last Hunt was the first comic I ever read as a 4-year-old. I remember that Web of Spider-Man 32 being handed to me. And in fact, that book inspired me so much that I hired the guy who wrote it to be my editor on Marks. So that was really cool. But my career in that love for Spider-Man has really helped kind of launch my career, but allow me to work with people who have also worked on Spider-Man and learn how to make comics the Marvel way. As I got older, I kind of stepped away from comics for a little bit in the mid 90s when things were kind of dipping. And then I got back into them when I was in high school, right around the time I got exposed to Mallrats and stuff. I was like, oh yeah, comics are cool. I should start reading them again. And this time I came into it with a much more mature, interested view of what was out there. And so I started really diving into Batman and X-Men and Fantastic Four and all kinds of great stuff, because when I was growing up, I was always just Spider-Man centric. So now I was just opening myself up to all this stuff, and I've gotten turned on to so much stuff since then. And once I got into it and started working on it as a craft, that also opened up even more doors. So now I'm reading even more I'm reading a lot of stuff that when I read comics, I'm looking to find inspiration from different creators. And one of the biggest inspirations for me is always Will Eisner. I love anything he does, and just, can get wrapped up in his work.
Oh, absolutely. Now, you told me your favorite growing up was Spider-Man, and that kind of segues into my next question. I know you can't see my notes over here by any means, and we did not script this, but you're going straight into the segue. I'm just letting you know.
Oh, so that's great.
Being that it's Spider-Man, you have a foreword in this book from Stan Lee. Now, I know everybody is kind of like, wow, that's Stan Lee and everything. I actually want to delve a little bit deeper into this. I want to know, what was it emotionally like for you to actually have Stan Lee do this for you? I actually want to know that part of it.
Man, it was everything you could possibly imagine it would be, in a very positive way. So it's how they say never meet your heroes? That's a crock of shit. You just got to pick the right heroes. And Stan was the right hero. I'm just telling you, that man is responsible for me being where I am today. I wanted to get into comics because I saw how passionate he was about bringing Marvel characters out into the world, and just the way he engaged people, the way he makes other people feel, the way he made me feel. And the fact that it transcends onto everybody who's had positive experiences with him. That always made me really like drawn to him. And when the time came for me to, figure out who would write the foreword to this book, I knew it had to be Stan Lee, no matter what. So my co-writer on Eastern Shin is David Anthony Kraft, and Dak has worked for Stan. He has interviewed Stan and Foom. He's done so many. Him and Stan had a really good relationship. But on top of that, I met David Anthony Kraft through Jim Salicrup, who was the guy who edited all the Spider-Man comics I read as a kid. And we connected through Facebook. So Jim and I have become very good friends. And he mentored me a bit and kind of directed me, and he put me in touch with Dak. And Dak taught me everything I know about comics. And he really helped me kind of like find my identity publicly, because it's like it's not just creating the book. It's how do you get the book into people's hands? And when you don't have the push and pull of like a big publisher, you really have to take it upon yourself. And even if you do have a publisher, you're still you. You still have to promote yourself. The publisher's got tons of titles, tons of creators they're working with. You have to stand out. And who stood out better than Stan? So, Dak, he had me, read interviews with Stan. He had me like really kind of pay attention to the way Stan does things. And, he always made sure that I kept things on an upbeat note, that I don't ever sound condescending, that I don't ever come off negatively, that I keep myself centered at all times, and always tried to build other people up. Like as Kevin Smith said, it takes nothing to support an artist. It's free, and what you get in return for that is so much more, because that encouraging, uplifting thing that you say to an artist to, motivate them could come back to you in so many ways that you have no idea about. I recently acquired a client who decided to make his own comic. He really loved Eastern Shin, and then he came to me at New York Comic Con, and he's like, I really love what you've done with Eastern Shin. I want you to have my first issue. Well, I spent some time, and I finally got around to reading his book, and I said, you know what? I want to see if he might want to. He was coming to me for questions, and I was like, maybe I should offer him my services as an editor, because I love editing. And Dak instilled that love of editing for me. I like to help writers find their way and to help them, express what they need to say in the most clear possible way, in a sense that their story is, being served fully. And I got all this experience from that, and now I'm helping out other people that I've inspired, and that's what Stan was all about, And when I got to meet him, when I went to his office in Beverly Hills back in 2010, I sat down with him for 15 minutes, and I was nervous. All right. When I was walking over there, my wife, she'd come with me to Los Angeles, and we came here specifically to meet with Stan Lee. How I got this meeting to happen was basically through my sister, who donated to this charity. It was like a kids charity, and the reward was you get to meet Stan Lee, and you get 15 minutes with him. So she did this for me as like a birthday gift, and I was like, awesome. So I got to have my 15 minutes with Stan, and I was nervous as hell. And both Dak and Jim Salicrup, they both nudged Stan a little bit, and Stan responded and said, I'll take care of your guy. And I was like, all right, cool. So I was kind of like I was nervous, but not as nervous now, because I knew that they had said something. But either way, I had to, get Stan to write the foreword to my book. There was no guarantee that he was going to do it, because he could have just as easily said no. So I walk over to his office, which was like about 10 minutes from where I was staying. And it was a pretty like long walk, It was a pretty brisk October morning in Los Angeles, and it was just like I was expecting warmer weather, but it was really cold. And so I got into his office, and I'm waiting in the lobby, and I thought I was going to wait there for a long time, but they just said like, no, come on back. And here I was in Stan's office, and there was another person who was sitting there, and I guess she was just kind of mediating a little bit, but she left after like a minute or two. And Stan, I told Stan, I'm like, yeah, I'm a friend of Jim Salicrup's, and he just might have told you about me, and he was like, "Oh, Jim, how's he doing?" And I said, "Oh, he's doing great." And just like how you would how he always appeared, that's just who he is. Like when he was in his office, he was the exact same person. And he sat down with me and he goes, "So what are you doing?" And I showed him the first 3 issues of Yisun Shin. He goes, "This is magnificent," and just like that energy he had was just awesome. And I was like, "Well, Stan, I wanted to ask you if you would be able to write the foreword to our book. It would really mean a lot to me." And he looked at it and he goes, "Well, you seem like you're pretty serious about this. Now, if I were you, I would pull out a paper and pen and start writing." And I didn't have a paper and pen. I didn't know what to do. I just had a marker, and I just grabbed the marker and I had a folder and I started writing whatever the hell he said. I was just like, yeah, And he goes, so then he asked me, "Where's this forward going to appear?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to print it in my graphic novel." And he goes, "Okay, so here's what you're going to do. Write down my email address." He tells me his email address, and he goes, "Wait for me. Send me an email in about 30 minutes, and then I will get you something by the end of the day." And I was like, "Can you print up an original and send it out to me?" And he goes, Yes, I'll take care of it." And I was like, "Cool." And then we talked for like 10 minutes, and he was like talking about Spider-Man, and we cracked a few jokes with each other. It was a lot of fun. And then I left. And I was like, "Holy shit, I got Stan Lee to write the foreword of my book. Oh my God, this is crazy." And then I get downstairs and I'm walking outside, and then I'm like, what if he forgot? Like, what if I did all this for nothing? Like, what if nothing happened? So I called up Dak and I'm like, "Dak, Stan agreed to write the foreword, and he was like, "That's awesome." And I go, "But I think he'll forget." And he goes, "No, you don't know Stan. Stan hates having stuff on his desk. You will hear from him by the end of the day." So I kind of let it go, but I was nervous the whole time. I'm like, what if he forgot? Sure enough, by 3:00 p.m., I get an email from Stan, and he said, "It was really nice to meet you. I here's the forward, and I'm gonna send it out to you. You'll have it in a week." And I'm like, wow. And then on top of that, he followed me on Twitter, and I was like, holy crap! I got Stan Lee following me on Twitter, and it was amazing. A week later, I got 2 signed copies. One of them's hanging up in my office, and the other one I gave to Dak, because he's my wingman on Yi. We do it together. We're co-creators. So, I felt like he deserved it. So yeah, that's what meeting Stan Lee was like. And I got to meet him.
That is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. I got to meet him a couple times after that. But
that's something that you can definitely, that's part of your legacy in life, is you can actually say that you met him, and not as a matter of in passing by or at a table real quick. "Hey, do you want a signature?" You get a signature, that kind of thing. Because I never got a chance to meet him, but as I understood, he was not one of those that would just go signature and move on. He actually wanted to talk to everybody and find out, who's your favorite character, or, what did you like best about my work? Or he would just get things, he would get things going and be interactive with the fans, which was great. So now, I'm going to shift gears a little bit on that, because we just went to an incredible high there, and I'm still kind of incredibly pumped on that. So we're going to go straight into my review of your book, because I know you haven't gotten it yet, and I have done that on purpose because I like to see the reactions while I'm doing this. I am not a professional. My guys that are on here that are watching right now, they all know that I'm not professional, and I'm waiting for the comments to start coming after that one. But I do speak strictly from what I see, straight from the heart, straight from everything. It's just what I get out of it is what I get out of it. So, number one, I will show, because I actually have the book. And this one I actually purchased. I actually purchased the graphic hardback. And I actually asked Onrie, I said, so which one do I get? Because I believe there's 2 hardbacks, and is there 3 hardbacks or 2?
There will be 3, but so far we got 2, and you got it's a trilogy, so you got the first part of the trilogy.
Right. So he told me to go ahead and get this one to get started in it, and I immediately messaged him and said, "Okay, it's sent, we're good." And he was like, "Really? You bought the book?" So he was a little thrown off by that. But I got it. Now, I always like to go through, whenever I get it in, on how it was packaged and all. Packaging was immaculate in there. This thing was actually inside of a box, inside of a box, inside of bubble wrap, and so on and so forth. There's no damage that could ever happen to this thing inside of there. So I always appreciate that. Now, on some of these things, I will say that after the reviews, I sometimes give away the books or have contests for that or something. However, I'm just going to say right now, sorry about your luck, but this one is personalized because it has my name on there, Onward to Victory. So this one is not being given away, and even if it didn't have it, I'm pretty sure I'd have kept it. Anyway, so that being said, the book itself, the cover is absolutely amazing. I mean, you saw the picture of it, doesn't do it justice. And as far as artwork, just to kind of give you an idea, let me see if I can get that in there, just so you can kind of see what you're getting into. The build up into it is one that's, if you know anything about feudal Japan, Korea, this time frame, samurais, anything along those lines, you look into this and you're immediately going to start looking for idiosyncrasies that are in there. You're starting to look for things that don't play into it. There's maybe something wrong with the timeline, that the wardrobe is actually incorrect, or that they may have said something incorrectly, or anything. I read through this, not only in this book, which I love going through because I love having the physical book in my hand, but I have the digital copies as well. And the digital, I was actually paying a lot more attention online and really looking for those, and I couldn't find a thing. So that's number one. Number two, the pages, I love that they are a little bit thicker than normal that you would have in a graphic novel. So they actually have that feel, which is on there, which is really nice. The panels, I cannot stand blocky panels where it's just, square, 9 square scenario. This does not have that. So again, that's a plus on there. There are splash pages on here where it is just a whole mess of art, and then it goes back to some of the panels, but they're different sizes. I like that. There's artwork that actually extends out of the panels, and there is even round panels at times to go ahead and throw emphasis on some of the things that are happening. So great work on the artwork, the panels, that all gets it off there. The dialogue, again, if you know anything about the era and everything, you're looking for those kind of things to find those kind of idiosyncrasies on there. Nothing, absolutely nothing. It even made it where I kind of Googled a few things just to go ahead and see if I was actually reading it correctly, and it played out. So I'm not saying I was trying to prove you wrong. I just want to make sure I understood it the way that you were trying to present it, which actually brings up my last point. So the perception that you get out of this, what you read out of here, is the exact perception of what needs to be coming out of it. So there's nothing that you need to look into here going, okay, I've got to get a companion book or something to figure out what's going on. You don't. The only thing that this leaves me with is that, yes, I did get the first book in here. I need to get the second book. That is a have to now. And then, of course, I will be getting the third book. So overall, I'm telling you right now, the Demon Seal of Approval on this book. This book needs to be in everybody's hands. It is not a kid's book. There is some language. There is a little bit of nudity. There is a ton of violence. But then again, it was a very violent era, and it is very graphic violence, not Saw related, that kind of blood and gore type thing. But I mean, there were spears going through heads and things like that. I mean, there's things that are happening in there because it brought me back to that era. Anything that can actually transport me in time to what's going on in there, you did it. So you nailed it on that. So I am very happy to own this, and this definitely needs to be going to everybody else. So as far as I'm concerned with my review, if you don't have this book, you need to get it. So everybody that's on here right now, everybody's going to be watching this, you need this book. So there is the website right there, yisunshin.com.
And everything
you have, go ahead.
Everything comes signed and shipped directly by me and packaged. I take great care of everything, making sure you get everything that you want. Just wanted to throw that in there. Sorry.
No, absolutely. And I was just going to throw out, I was actually fixing to bring that up as well, but right before then I was going to say that as far as if you get on there and you have questions about anything like I did, I reached out to Onrie and I said, okay, there's a lot of options here. What do I do? Because this is actually one way to get it, but there are floppies as well. So if you're not sure which way to go on this, get with Onrie. He'll go ahead and give you some ideas on there, and then you'll go ahead and make your choice on what you want to get, but get on it. This is something that definitely needs to be happening, and it needs to be happening more often. And I'm going to do what I can to try to keep this promoting as well, because I think that we're going to have a crowdfunding possibly for another one that'll be coming up. and I'm going to be getting on that one as well. So I expect everyone else to go ahead. We've said it 100 times over. It doesn't cost a thing to use that finger, the proper one, to use that finger to hit the share button. That's all you have to do in most cases. If you don't have the money to back everything, you can hit that share button and help out like you would not believe. So whenever it does come around, yes, I will be sharing it out. Yes, I will be backing it. I'm just going to put that out there right now.
That means so much, brother. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so touched. Tomorrow's my birthday, and you gave me the best birthday gift ever. Thank you. I'm so incredibly deeply touched by your review. I'm so glad you loved it.
Hey, absolutely. I'm telling you, this is one of those things that whenever I got it, I have to look at it unbiased, of course. And like I said, your energy and the fact that you have the banner behind you, and it's like I'm right there at the con, right in front of your table. Every time I see you on any panels or anything like that, you've always got that energy. And I had to see if that energy transferred into the book, and it does 10 times over. So that brings me up to my next question, actually. Why did you choose Yusun Shin?
That's a great question. Why Yusun Shin? Well, I always wanted to work on superheroes because I always wanted to do like superheroes. That's why I wanted to work in comics. But, creating your own superhero, it's a lot harder than it may seem. It's not impossible to do, but it's hard to do right. And pretty much anything you've done has already been done. Creating a new superhero that's going to stand out in ways that others don't is an extremely difficult thing to pull off. It's not, again, I'm not saying it's impossible. There are people who are doing it now and it's great, but a project really needs to speak to me. And when I first got into it, I did my best and I failed spectacularly. My first project was just total. I messed up and I failed the artists that I worked with. But after that, I promised myself I would never make that mistake again. And I spent a lot of time really trying to find what was I going to contribute to comics? What was I going to do that was going to be different than everybody else? And at the time, what was really popular was zombie stories. Noir was really hot back then. And, obviously superheroes. Those were like the only three genres you have, and maybe some Western stuff. But there was nothing being tackled on the subject matter of like history and like, things that actually happened. And that's not what brought me to Yusun Shin. What brought me to Yusun Shin was I saw that 300 was really like a great graphic novel. It wasn't just like this, it wasn't just like a depiction of something that happened in history. It was something that was like raw and in your face. And it was just such a great story. And I was so inspired by it. And in 2006, I bought this K-drama called The Immortal Yusun Shin, which was about Yusun Shin. And at this point in my career, I kind of, just took a nosedive. I'd failed and I was trying to figure out what my next project was going to be. And when I watched this show, I was so transfixed by it. It was all in Korean, but it really went into the details of like what happened in that era, not just with Yusun Shin, but everything going on around him too. And it was extremely elaborate and long and epic and grand. And it was 104 episodes. Each one's like an hour long. Great casting, great writing. Just everything felt real. And I tried to get other people into it, and they just weren't buying it because it had the subtitles and everything. And I know more people have gotten over that now. But that was a real big crutch for me getting other people in the series. But then I thought about it. I'm like, Frank Miller did 300. Why don't I do my take on Yusun Shin? Like, why the hell not? So I started doing a bunch of research. I watched the show, which was a huge inspiration for me. And I got a bunch of books, including Yusun Shin's journals that he wrote during the war. There was a Korean university that had transcribed it. They didn't do a very good job, but it was translated. So I got to put facts together because I couldn't do what the TV show did. I had to do it. My version had to be completely different, set itself apart in every which way. And that was my first task, was become an expert on the history so that way I can reconstruct it in a way that would be engaging. And then I had to channel the comic side of me, and I was looking at what was hot. And what was hot at the time, Mike Perkins and Steve Epting on Captain America when they introduced the Winter Soldier and like, you know, brought Bucky on as Captain America. Like I looked at that art style and I'm like, you know, that's what's hot in comics right now. And that was the best selling comic around 2008. But I was also reading a bunch of other stuff too, like Watchmen, a bunch of other comics that I was inspired by, and I just tore them apart. I really picked them apart and tried to pay attention to what different writers were doing and what the artists were doing, and I wanted to learn. And that brought me over to meeting one of my mentors who was at my college, and his name was Mort Castle. And then I got connected with another professor over there named Len Straszewski, and they mentored me at first and kind of showed me the ropes and allowed me to get an actual finished script out there. And they didn't charge me a dime for it. They just helped me out because I was an old student at the school. And that meant a lot to me. So I've always kept really good relations with them, and I take them out to lunches every now and again. And, you know, Mort has done so much for me over the years. And they showed me they showed me why I needed an editor, because originally I wanted to make Yisunshin like 60 issues long. And they were like, are you out of your mind? Like 60 issues? Like no one's going to stay on board for that. They're like, when's the first battle? I was like, probably like issue 6. And they're like, yeah, no one's going to read your book if your first battle is in issue 6. You need it in like the first 6 pages, dude. You need to like minimize this. And like, that was a lot for me to take in. But then I realized that they were right. Like, who the hell would stick around for like 60 issues? No one's going to publish that. No one's going to pick it up. And so I condensed it. And the idea of a trilogy came to me because as soon as Len suggested it be 12 issues, I was like, well, 12 divided by 3 is 4. So we decided to make it a trilogy, 3 arcs, each 4 issues, and every 4th issue is a double-sized book. And you know, I had that structure, but you know, I couldn't depend on Mort and Len. They were really busy at the time. I couldn't depend on them to edit the book. I needed somebody else. And so that's when I reached out to Jim Salicrup, and he connected me with David Anthony Kraft. And at that point, David, he came on board, and like we really restructured everything. And he's been with me since on the series. And, you know, we've just been knocking it out of the park. You should see the stuff we're doing now. We're just firing on all cylinders, and we're having such a blast working on this book. It is just, my entire career in comics, like for the last 10 years, I've been working on just this book because we really take our time to make sure that like everything, that you get your bang for your buck. Just finishing one page of this book is like finishing an entire comic. That's how much I learned from it. And that's how much, you know, energy is put into it from the art side and everything. And we draw the layouts for our book. So we actually give the artist layouts, and, you know, he has to draw based on what we provide him. So yeah, I mean, we got a very hands-on production process.
And it definitely shows. I mean, it shows what you put into it, because you touched on a lot of the subjects on there with your research that you were doing on there. Like I said in the beginning about on my review about with the era, with the clothing, with everything that was in there, with the way that the boats were made, there was a lot of research done in there. You could have just gone ahead and rough sketched something on there. We would have bought into it because it goes along with the era, but you're actually going for the realism on there and the truth, which is true because it's based on true events. So it's not a true story book. It's just true events. So it's not, you know, page by page exactly what happened. But then again, we weren't around back then, and there wasn't that much that was transcribed that you could actually read. So this is the closest thing to that. And it's amazing seeing that, because you touched on it earlier about 23 victories, no defeats in a row. And we're talking about going against the army that was going to take over the world. And they were pissed that this admiral and his little fleet kept outsmarting them on things. And we're talking about some military strategy that I didn't even see coming. And I usually see 5 moves ahead with the chess games going in my head type scenario. And this guy was always ahead of them on everything that he was doing. And it was absolutely amazing.
He was a real life Batman. He was a true real life Batman. Absolutely.
Exactly. I mean, it is. You have to see this book. You have to get into this. And like we said, you can either do the floppies and get into it that way. But if you want that forward, you have to get the trade for it. You have to go ahead and get the hardcover. I highly recommend getting the forward. I could read it to you right now, and you don't get the feeling, except that I'm reading it. I am the one getting the feeling because I have the chills going through me every time I open that thing up, because that was Stan. So I can tell you what it says, and that's just hearsay. I'm giving you the audible. That's fine. You actually need to see it in front of you to actually get that full aspect of what happened there. So I have much more respect for you for doing that and getting Stan to do that forward for you, because as you said, it was something that had to happen. But the only reason he did it, and I'll tell you right now, is the only reason. It's kind of the same reason I had you on this show, is because that energy, that passion that you show is what he saw as well. And I could only wish to be this much of Stan Lee, as far as the man that he was. I'm not saying his greatness and being able to draw and all. I'm talking about just the human being that he was. If I could be this much, then I'm winning something. So as far as I'm concerned, you know what? Stepped over bounds on that.
I think I can speak for Stan, and when I say that if he was here, he would tell you you're already, being like him. Just what you're doing by having creators on your show and helping to promote me, that means a lot, because it's really hard. I've had to self-publish this book, and every single sale has come from me being interacting directly with people at shows. A lot of publishers, they didn't see the potential in Yi Sun-shin, and another problem that we had was we have gotten to a point now where we've been doing this for so long that it needs to make sense for us to work with a publisher, because a publisher needs to kind of like help us get this into more hands, and it has the potential to sell out at retailer shops all over the country. We released it in Korea, and it went into a second printing. I mean, it went nuts. And I've sold over 100,000 books in the U.S., and we have over 250,000 books in print now. And it's just, it started as just me realizing that I wanted to do this, but I'm very, very much engaged in the, I don't want to say the sales aspect, but the showmanship that is required for this book, because I like to interact with the audience. I want to give them that experience. It's not just the book that they're buying. They're also buying into the message that's coming across. And yes, the book is violent, and yes, it has sexual content in it, but it's not derogatory. It's not there to just simply get you to, pay attention because there's tits. It's all service to the story. And the one thing that Dak has always been known for is he never talked down to his audience, and he instilled that same idea in me. Never talk down to your audience. Always, treat them as if you're taking them seriously, and that's what it's always been about. That's what the convention experience is for me. And that's why I will always push Yi, is because that's the vessel I can do it best in.
Absolutely. Now, I know we've talked about Yi Sun-shin for quite some time here, because that was my review that I was doing on there. I haven't even looked into Marks. I know you had sent me the PDF on that, so I need to look into that as well. And I will be doing a review on that one as well.
That's awesome.
But if you can kind of let us know what the mindset was in going into doing Marks, because that's something you're basically, you went a whole different direction than with Yi Sun-shin. Plus, most people are doing, like you said, superheroes and everything, and you're just doing different things. So if you can kind of explain how that came about.
Well, I wanted to do something kind of like that I didn't want Marks to be Yi Sun-shin. I wanted it to be as far away from Yi Sun-shin as possible to show that I had the scope as a storyteller. So Yi Sun-shin is a really realistic take on this time, but it's not stiff by any means either. We're studying a lot of loose art styles. We're looking at Paul Galassi. We're looking at George Perez a lot. We're looking at different Frank Miller even. We've drawn inspiration from lots of different creators. And we really wanted to have a comic book feel, like something you would pick up a Marvel book. And I would say Yi Sun-shin is to James, what Terminator is to James Cameron. Marx is really kind of like my Titanic, you know, and I really wanted to just do something different, because what did James Cameron do? He made the ultimate guy movie, and then he followed it up with the ultimate girl movie. I think that is fucking amazing. Both Dak and I, we look at that all the time. We're like, wow. And not to say that Marx is targeted for women, but Marx takes on a very different tone, and it has different art styles in it. The first art style is more of like kind of like a fairy tale type of art style. It's a little bit more loose and painted, and it tackles my grandfather's youth. And as the book proceeds, the art style changes and gets darker, and we took more of like a Bill Sienkiewicz approach to it. And this was actually drawn by a Greek artist. His name is Vasily Gogzila. And the first chapter was done by Nick Bell. And the middle chapters, I actually hired a local artist. His name is Dan Doherty. And what I wanted to do was I really wanted the war sequences in this book to feel very grounded. And unlike Yisun Shin, where we might exaggerate a couple things by making it look more superhero-ish, I really wanted it to feel like more scary than anything, rather than what you would see in something like Yisun Shin, where there's heroism and everything like that. With my grandpa's story, it's like he's just a guy who was just thrown out into the battlefield. And my grandfather I'm Jewish, so my grandfather was Jewish. He was fighting Nazis. And there was a point, he told me one of his earliest memories in the war was his unit got stuck in this trench, and they got separated, and they had lost all their ammunition. And what my grandfather did was he commanded a small unit that had 4 trucks that had big cannons on them, and these cannons would shoot down planes from the sky, and they'd lost their ammunition. And they found a crate that was like about I think 100 yards out into in the distance. That they have a different system of measurement in Russian in Russia. They use meters. We use the metric system, so it's a little bit different. But if I had my family here to tell me exactly what it was, I would remember. But it's in the book. And anyway, he had to run into the battlefield while he was being fucking shot at, bombs dropping on him, Nazis out in the forest shooting at him and shit. He had to grab this crate and haul it back. And it was like 200 pounds, fucking grabbed this big crate and was carrying it over his shoulders while he was being shot at. And, they ended up like just shooting down a whole bunch of fucking planes after that. And there were a ton of experiences. I asked him, like, do you ever remember shooting anyone? And he was like, I don't know. Like, there would be times where we just like, you had a gun, you'd be walking, you'd hear some gunfire, you just start shooting at whatever, you're just shooting blindly. And once the shooting stops, that's it. And then, they'd move forward and they'd see a bunch of dead bodies. And it was crazy. He spent about a year on the front lines, and then he was plucked off and thrown into a Russian prison camp, because one of the things that happened in that era that a lot of people don't know about is that Stalin, he killed off so many people, and they weren't even Nazis. They were like his own people. He killed 30 million of his own people, whereas Hitler never did that. And that's why Hitler had more, he had a very good military. He had an incredible military. His generals were very good, and they were very disciplined, whereas Russia didn't know what the hell they were doing. I mean, it was just, Stalin won that war because he threw bodies at it. And there were a lot of people who were just plucked off the front lines for whatever reason. They could come up with whatever reason they wanted to, and they would just take you and arrest you, and you'd be sentenced to like hard labor. And that's what happened. That's also what allowed Russia to win the war, was the fact that they took so many of their soldiers off the front line and sentenced them to hard labor. And they were building out aqueducts. They were building out more weapons, more clothes. They were doing all kinds of stuff. And my grandfather was in a gulag, and he survived it. he was a badass dude. And as he was getting older, it was kind of like he didn't like to talk about his past at all. He was always like he would fantasize about shit a lot. He would just like make it seem like he was, when I originally asked him, where were you on May 9th, 1945? That was the day that Germany surrendered. And the war ended in Europe. And he said that he was in Berlin that day. Well, the truth is he was in a prison camp. He just didn't want to tell me that. And he really never opened up to me about it. I never got those stories from him. I actually had to find out everything by reaching out to his cellmate. And his cellmate lived in Berlin. So my wife was living in Kazakhstan at that time. So I was traveling back and forth to go visit her. And I said, well, look, if I'm going to go visit you, I got to stop in Germany anyway. Like that's usually where my layovers were. So I was like, let me stay in Berlin for like a couple of days and see if I could interview this guy. And he was really old when I interviewed him, but he told me everything. He even wrote a book about it. And he gave me this book, and my father-in-law, he read some of it, but then that book encouraged me to actually learn how to read in Russian. And I learned how to read in Russian, and I've been speaking my whole life. I just never learned how to read it. And I was able to read that story, and it was his experiences were pretty crazy too. And his book is amazing. And it's just what these guys, what they went through and what they survived. It's you can't let the stuff go, and I'm very fortunate that my grandfather trusted me with this story at the end, because he knew his time was coming, and he was really proud of the fact that I was doing this. He didn't like the fact that it was going to be in a comic book form, because he hated comics. He was like, I remember one time he was like, so is this book about me going to be a comic? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, I hope I die before it comes out. And he got his wish. He got his wish. But, I always tell that story, and it always puts a smile on my face. But yeah, I really enjoyed working on it. It was a very hard book. It was a very hard book to write, because there was so much going on in my family at that time, and I had to be respectful of their privacy. My mom had her own relationship with this was her father. My sister, my sister was super tight with my grandfather. And she'll never read this book because of how emotionally difficult it'll be for her to do it. But what I did as paying homage to her, even because she's not in this book, is I got this picture of the three of us together. And, you can just see from this picture how much she loved him, and she just cherished him so much. And it was so hard for her when he passed away, but I couldn't put that into the book, because that would be taking something from her. And I don't think she would have ever wanted it. She didn't even want me to say that this was based on my grandpa's story. She said, based on the true story of a great hero. Like, she didn't want me to, she just so didn't want me to go down this path and fuck it up. It meant that much to her. And no matter what happens, I know that she'll hold it to that higher level, because that's how great he was to her. And he was great to me too. And I really didn't want to depict him as a hero. I wanted to depict him as a man, as a human being. So it's not a story that really requires the same kind of intensity that Yi Sun-shin does. It requires a more human approach. And so the art style, it gradually gets darker, and then it gradually gets lighter too, because, from after my grandfather left prison, he met my grandmother, and that's where we kind of leave the story. And I wanted it to have more of like that story, that children's fairy tale type of art style for it towards the end, so that, you could see that his life got better, and, he lived a very full and great life.
That's very cool. I mean, you've got epic books here. I mean, you've got Marx, which you're telling me about here, which I cannot wait to review. And then, of course, you got Yi Sun-shin, which I cannot wait to get part 2, so I can keep going on with the review on this. But let me ask the question. So we've got these two here for you. What's in the future for you?
Well, I'm editing a ton of projects right now, and I'm having a blast with them. So I'm working on this one book. I can't really talk about it yet, but it has to do with werewolves. And the dude who's writing he's an up and comer. You're going to be hearing about him very soon. Very talented, very focused, very committed. And, I'm helping him oversee this. So I have a very heavy hand in it. I don't know if I'm going to get a co-writing edit credit on there or just an editor, but that book will definitely have my imprint on it. I also edited a book called Lovecraft PI, which is written by Dave Can from Dark Side Media. And that book, I think, is he's self-distributing it right now as well, and I'm continuously working on that project. And then I'm working on Everborn with Steven Johnson. He's a really it's a manga fantasy, and it's just fantastic. This guy, he's got such a strong use of vocabulary, and he's got just this wonderfully huge story. It's I would say it's pretty much all ages. It's kind of like a lighter version of Game of Thrones, and with manga and fantasy thrown in there. And it's a lot of fun. And then I'm working on Yisun Shin. Like I said, every book we take our time with it and make sure that the quality is up to a level where it reaches a new height. And we're going to wrap up our trilogy. We're on chapter 10 right now. So issue 10. So we got 3 more books to go. And then we'll be done with the Yisun Shin trilogy. But then we're going to go back and we're going to do another trilogy about the main villain in the story, who's also a historical figure that you'll find out about in Fallen Avenger, which is the second book, and that's our main villain. So he's going to get his own prequel trilogy, and he's going to be the main character, and we're going to learn how he became the bad guy. And at the same time, we're also going to discover how Yisun Shin kind of rose up in the ranks and how he became admiral. And the story doesn't end with the trilogy. We've been planning this for a long time, and I'm really excited to do it. So Yisun Shin's kind of my main squeeze, and it'll continue to be so even after I finish the trilogy, because we're going to go back and do this other part. And I want to just make this as big as I can. I'm shooting for Game of Thrones, Star Wars level stuff here, and it's my life's work. It's just what I'm totally committed to it. And I only take projects on that I really believe in and that I have faith in. And I love what I'm doing right now. I'm enjoying every minute of it.
Yeah, it's like I said before, it definitely shows in your work, and it is definitely worth it. And if you don't have Yisun Shin, I can tell you right now, because I have read this one so far, you need to get this one. Marks, I will be doing a review on there, so I can't say yay or nay on that one, of course, because I haven't seen it yet. From what you're telling me, I'm definitely interested, so I'm definitely going to be reading my PDF, and I'll give you a review on that.
Sure, man. That's awesome.
But the Yisun Shin, I'm telling you right now, guys, if you don't have it in your hands, you need to order it, get it in there. Tomorrow is Onrie's birthday. I think he would love nothing more.
Best birthday gift. Yeah,
and he would love to see that on there.
And one thing I always like to do is I always love to offer deals to people who are interested in taking a chance on my work. So, Phil, this book right here, it retails at $25. Right now I'm doing it at $20, free shipping. You took part in that. And normally people are paying $35 just to get this book. And you can get both of them right now for $40. Another thing I like to do is I love to take the prices down, because that's where things get fun. So if you decide you want this in single issue format, the single issues are printed on the same materials that the hardcover is printed on. It's just not a hardcover, it's a floppy. But we got the first 4 issues going for just $10 with free shipping. So 4 comics, $10. I sign them all. You decide you want to get the first 8 books, it's $20. You decide you want to get all 9 issues. This is issue 9 right here, Hunter and Destroyers, the final arc. You tack that on. It's $23 total with free shipping for 9 comics. All of them come signed by me, and come with a personalized letter that I sign off directly for my customers.
That right there that's a hell of a deal right there. I mean, that's 9 books for $23, and they're signed, and they're still this level of artwork, this level of passion, this level of history. Everything that I told you is in there is in the floppies as well. The only thing that you're not getting, of course, is the forward. So keep that in mind. If you want that Stan Lee forward, you have to go ahead and get the graphic novel for that. If you want my opinion, get it all. That's just me.
Phil, you're awesome, man. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Another thing that's really cool about the hardcovers is that you're not just getting the forward by Stan. You're also getting, there's maps in here that kind of give you a better sense of like what went on, where these battles actually took place. And there's over 50 pages of bonus material in these books too. So you get interviews with the creative team, director's cut of how we made the book, and these really beautiful character spreads in the back here. And
Yep.
you really get your bang for your buck. And the same thing goes for the second one. We really upped our game with the second one. So it's not just like you get 50 pages of crap. We really took our time and gave you something that's worth your hard-earned money.
Absolutely, and it is definitely worth it. Onrie, if you'll give us one last audible shout out on where we can find you, where we can purchase these books and everything, if you want to do that. I know you got a birthday coming up tomorrow, so we can get you out of here and in time prepared for that. So go ahead and give us where we can find you.
Absolutely. All right, folks. So you can buy Yisun Shin at www.yisunshin.com right over here. And you buy your books, I will ship them out to you right away. I do not waste my time. Every time I get an order, I jump on it like white on rice. I love it. So come to my site. You're buying directly from me. You're getting from the source. However, if you want to go on Amazon, everything's available on Amazon too. Whatever works for you, do what's best for you. I also have a show, as Phil mentioned, on YouTube called Onward with Onrie. And those are free. So come on there and you can follow my adventures on the front lines of Comic-Con, or you can, see what I'm doing right now to get further ahead during this situation by talking to other creators and learning from them on my other show, Onward with Onrie Live. And, that's where you can find me. Follow me on Twitter, at Kompan, same handle on Instagram, and you can just friend me on Facebook. I will answer. I will be your friend right away, and don't worry, message me. I need to engage my readers out there. It means so much to me. And, now we're going through this difficult time together, and I want to let you all know you're not alone. We're all in this together. And, if Yisun Shin can help you get through it, reading a story about a real life hero who overcame incredible odds, not unlike what we're going through right now, I'm your man.
Exactly. Absolutely. And hopefully you'll be able to get me on your show at some point as well.
Absolutely, so dude. Are you kidding? Of course. Yeah. We were talking about it while we were backstage. Hell yeah. I want you on my show, man. As soon as we get off of here, I will lock you in right now. Absolutely.
Perfect. Absolutely. So y'all all need to go over to his YouTube and go ahead and start following over there and get ready for it, because the demon's going to be coming over to his show.
Awesome. You are
so
welcome.
Thank you very much, Onrie. Early happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
I'll be sending you all kinds of memes you're probably not going to want to show in public tomorrow, but just have some fun. But hey, it's always fun.
No worries, man. No worries. I like it all. I love it all.
Thank you for being here, buddy.
No worries, man. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. We'll catch you next time.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we had Onrie Kompan on here and got to go through Yisun Shin in great detail on there. He's also got Marks, which I'll be doing a review on as well at some point, definitely, because I'm definitely interested in that one. I always do my closing statements. This is no different this time as well. What I'd like to go over with is actually based on kind of the military strategy. And Onrie kind of fulfilled that in the way that he actually failed on another project. We never found out exactly what that is, but he failed on a project. And instead of just going ahead and taking it as a complete failure and just giving up on the thing, he came back out and decided to recreate something totally different. But not only did he recreate, he actually went a step further, because everyone's doing superheroes. Everyone's doing the same thing to a degree, at least. So he wanted to do something that would stand out a little bit more. Well, I'm telling you right now, if you want to stand out in a book, that's how you do it right there. I have read so many books and done so many reviews and so many things here lately and talked to so many people. And I'm going to tell you right now that this is a book that needs to be in every single person's hands. And I will tell you that this is from me saying this. This is my copy. This is what I'm keeping. You need to get yours. I'm not giving up mine. Demon Phil, Comics and More, New Jersey. Keep it indie, y'all.